Hey, my name's Sam with Dorm Room Recording, and this is a review of Harrison Mixbus. Harrison Mixbus is a digital audio workstation that basically sounds and feels like an analog console in software form. It has a unique workflow that's more intuitive and simple than its digital audio workstation counterparts, and it has built-in tape saturation that's subtle but gives your mixes just a little bit of that analog feel, and I'll demonstrate that here. Here is one of my songs played just through iTunes.
If you spend enough money on something, it becomes your love. And lucky for me, the world never got a dime. It's fun.
And now I'll play the exact same clip, just on Mixbus. The difference should be subtle, but noticeable if you're listening on good monitors or headphones.
If you spend enough money on something, it becomes your love. And lucky for me, the world never got a dime. It's fun.
That was simply played through Mixbus with no additional processing, and it already sounded warmer and less like a digital recording. The feature that makes Mixbus seem most like an analog console is that each channel strip has a built-in EQ and compressor. And these aren't your average stock EQs and compressors. These sound like they came out of a high-end analog console, a Harrison console to be exact. And the EQs sound awesome. I will tweak the master EQ while playing my song again.
Funny how you feel you never have enough. But I've been scraping by and I'm doing fine. And if it wasn't for the war, I'd have more than just a couple friends. If it wasn't for the war, I could guess how the story ends. If it wasn't for the war, I'd be bound to the 9 to 5. Keep me alive. If it wasn't.
They're just super smooth and really pleasant sounding EQs. The EQs on each track are a little bit less subtle, but you can also control the frequency of each band, as well as use the built-in high-pass filter, which sounds great as well. You actually get 3 different compressors on each channel to choose from, and they're all super versatile. The leveler is a very transparent compressor that you can use on almost any source. The compressor gives you a little bit more noticeable results, and the limiter, of course, squashes any signal that goes over the threshold. Another feature specific to Mixbus that makes it feel more like a console is that it has individual channels designated as Mixbuses already. And it's quick and easy to send your individual tracks to the Mixbuses. Each Mixbus has its own EQ, the 3 compressors that I already mentioned, as well as its own drive knob to increase or decrease the amount of tape saturation. The master channel has some incredibly useful features as well, besides the EQ and the 3 dynamics processors. It has a drive knob to control the master saturation, as well as a limiter that's on by default so you never clip the master bus. It has 2 very useful meters, including the loudness meter, also known as a K14 meter, to let you know how your songs will line up against songs on the radio and how much dynamic range they have. It also has a stereo correlation meter, which gives you an objective reference of how wide your mixes are. The use of these Mixbuses, as well as the master channel strip in the default layout, makes it a breeze to process your audio at different stages, either on the individual track level, or in the different Mixbus groups, or in the master fader. And over here we have the monitor section, which is one of my favorite parts of the Mixbus workflow. On this one section, we can mute our output, we can make our output mono, or dim it according to the amount that we select right here, and do a lot of other really cool and useful features all in one place. This is the edit window of Mixbus, and it has some pretty cool features too. For example, the layered media. You can simply drag your media items over existing media items, and it will leave all items stacked there and will play whatever's on top. Additionally, there's a handy menu for automation where you can quickly access all sorts of different automation controls. A really useful shortcut that Harrison included is that if you press plus, you'll zoom into the timeline, and if you hit minus, you'll zoom out of the timeline. And the increments that you zoom into are really intuitive and make it easy to zoom in or out quickly to the size that you want to view. Another great shortcut that I use a lot is Control M, which lets me switch between the edit window and the mix window and back as much as I want. Another aspect of Mixbus that I really love personally is the fact that it has some simple limits built in. And no, I'm not talking about the limiter on the master bus, but that's a really nice touch too, and I don't know why more DAWs have that. But what I'm talking about is psychological limits. For example, we can only see 3 bands of EQ on each channel, mix bus, or the master bus at one time. And this forces us to make very strategic EQ decisions. Of course, we could always add on more EQ with a plugin if we so desire, but only seeing the 3 basic EQ bands forces us to really think about what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish with the EQ. With Mixbus, you don't get any fancy digital EQ graphs and other computer simulated analytics of the audio. Notice that when you tweak a knob, the track name goes away, and in its place you get a numerical representation of the changes you're making. But that's about all the feedback you get. It forces you to rely on your ears rather than to use your eyes when making mixing decisions, and that's really valuable. My absolute favorite part of the Mixbus workflow is that it brings us back to the basics of music recording rather than throwing as many plugins as we can to our mix. With an EQ and a compressor on each track, on each Mixbus, and on the master fader, there's little need for other processing. So when I do throw on other plugins, it's for a specific reason, because I can do my basic tasks in Mixbus itself. So in conclusion, Harrison's Mixbus is an incredible, one-of-a-kind DAW that is perfect for anyone looking for an analog workflow or an analog sound on their computer. Mixbus is still a relatively new player in the game of digital audio workspaces, so it still has a couple quirks, and a few of your more processing heavy plugins may not play very nicely with it, but that definitely shouldn't scare you off from using it. It's packed with some great features and some great signal processing that honestly sounds like you're tweaking real knobs on an analog desk. It's priced super competitively right now at under $100. Follow the link in the description and check out Harrison Mixbus. Again, I'm Sam with Dorm Room Recording. Thanks for watching.